Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Ntwaniengomane. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back and welcome to today's video. I wanted to do a reflection of 30 lessons by 30. So if you don't know, I turned 30 earlier this year in January, and I've been spending the past few months like trying to figure myself out, as we all do when we turn 30. But today I wanted to film this video, which is basically a reflection of the lessons that I have learned in the 30 years of my life. Sometimes I can't believe I'm actually 30. In my mind I still feel like I'm 23, but you know what, the numbers don't lie, so the numbers say what it is. So I'm gonna just go straight into it. I'll do this video in two parts, and this is part one. I'm gonna do the first 15 lessons in this video, and then in part two I'm gonna do the rest of the 15 lessons, right? So that it is not too long, because I really want to give you guys like examples of the lessons that I'm talking about. And then also let me know in the comments if you resonate with any of these, or if any of these speaks to you directly. The first lesson that I have noticed in my 30 years of life is that your siblings are like your kids, and they do as you do and not as you say. I have a notebook in front of me and I've wrote these things, right? So I have two siblings. I have two younger brothers, and I have seen the influence that I have had on both of them. And my brothers and I have quite a massive age gap in between us. I'm 7 years older than my eldest younger brother. And then the little one, how many years are there between? 18. Yeah, 18 years. I'm 18 years older than the youngest one. And so there's such a massive gap in between us. But I've also just realized that they have grown up to literally copy the things that I do, and I'm sure it's not a conscious decision that they have made, but it's probably because of, we grew up together, the environment, we're in each other's orbit, and so they feed off of whatever it is that I do. And I feel like that is why firstborn siblings or older siblings have this pressure of, you have to be good because you're an example to your siblings. And it's true. It's true, I've found. So I've seen that in my brothers. I've seen my brother like take certain things seriously in his life because I have taken them seriously. I've seen him push through some of the difficult moments in his life because he knows I went through similar things and I've pushed through. I've also seen my parents treat my brothers differently to how they've treated me, because my brothers have a map that, like, I don't know how to explain it, but like my parents know that my brothers have like a GPS or like a map that they're following, and so they don't feel that they have to be hands-on all the time in parenting them like they did with me. And I feel like for them, my parents, with me, it was a trial and error. It was like, we don't know, this is our first time doing this parenting thing, we don't know how it's gonna turn out, so we need to be there, we need to be hands-on. But I feel like after me, they then relaxed that with my siblings, because they were like, oh, okay, like we've seen how this goes. Okay, they most likely gonna follow what she did. It's fine, it's a safe path, or it's a safe space, or they're not gonna get harmed, or things like that. So yeah, that's the first lesson. Like, your siblings are like your kids. They do as you do and not as you say. Like, what you model around your siblings is what most likely your siblings are gonna follow. And I know like it can be different for some families, but I'm talking about in the context of my experience and what I've seen happens in my family. So yeah, the second thing is that family is everything. While I'm on the wave of family, I have realized in my 30 years of life that, guys, family is everything for me. I I just, family is such a high value, such a high priority for me. My brothers are my best friends. They probably don't know this, but my brothers are my best friends. I talk to my brothers on the phone for hours on end. We talk about everything, that we need to talk about. We laugh, we share memes, we, the things that you do with your with your best friend, with your girlfriends, or with your guy friends, or whatever it is. Like, that's my brothers for me. And even over and above my brothers, like, just my parents, like, I cannot imagine a life without these people. And so for me, family is like everything. In the 30 years of life, like, I, especially during those times, like your Christmas, your New Year's, like, when you're just spending time with your family and you're just like, yeah, this is what life's about. And so I remember a couple of years, maybe like 5, 6, 7 years ago, I met a guy who was interested in being in a relationship with me, and we went out for breakfast one time, and we were just like at a stage where we were like talking, and I was like, oh, like, I wanted to get to know him better, he wanted to get to know me better. And he asked me, like, or I asked him, like, what's the situation with your family, like, and he didn't have any relationship with his family, like, or let me say, like, the relationship with his family was shaky is not the word, estranged is the politically correct word. They had issues and everything, and to him, just like, his family just wasn't a priority, or he didn't at least have that relationship that I have with my family. And I found it so difficult. Like, I couldn't understand, like how do you guys have these issues and problems with their family? And I'm not saying like families don't have problems, they do have problems, but like, they're your family, bro. Like solve, like, try to solve it, try to do something about it. And that's when I realized, like, when it first occurred to me that, no, man, like, this is not normal for other people, or this is not a priority for other people. And my logic is, if you cannot reconcile, cannot resolve whatever issues you have with your family, like, how does that translate into us being in a relationship? How will that impact you in you building your family? Is this also something you feel like, if something ever goes wrong, you won't prioritize to resolve? And so that's when I realized that, no, like, family is a high priority for me. Like, people have preferences in who they date, people have preferences in what they look for in a partner. And for me, a relationship with your family, a good, healthy, close-knit relationship with your family, is one of the things that is on my list. And so, yeah, in the 30 years of life, I've just learned that after everything is said and done, after you've done everything that you want to do with your life and everything, like, family is all that is left, and is all that we have. The third thing is that no one is coming to save you. Hey guys, no one is coming to save you. Honey, people are busy with their lives. People are busy with their lives. If you just sit there and you're like, I don't know what to do with my life, or you sit there, you like undecided about a certain thing, or you're like debating whether you should do something, or you just like, I need help in this thing and no one is helping me, or like, you need an answer and you're expecting it to come from somewhere. Nobody is coming to save you. This is life. You are an adult. If you are watching this video, you are an adult with 32 sets of teeth and an ID book. No one is coming to save you. You have to get up and you have to help yourself. If you are sitting at home unemployed, you need to make a plan on how you're gonna make a living. If you're in a job that you don't like and you don't enjoy, you need to make a plan to make a change. If you are overweight and you struggle with your weight and your eating habits, no one is coming to save you. You either have to get up, work out, change your lifestyle, go see a doctor, go see a nutritionist. You have to save yourself, and you need to want to save yourself. Let me tell you a story. I remember it's not even that long ago. Right? Maybe 4 years ago. I remember feeling very like distraught, just like, oh my God, like things are not working out for me, borderline depression. And I would wake up every day, eat junk. I would wake up every day, just mourn and like complain about my situation, but I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't doing anything to help myself. And I came across this quote that no one is coming to save you. No one was coming to help me figure out myself. No one was coming to help me out of that dark hole, out of that thing. And this is not to say don't ask for help. Do ask for help. But you have to initiate. You have to stand up and say, I want to change my life. I want to change this. I want to change my lifestyle. I want to change my eating habits. I want to change my job. I want to prioritize me. You need to want it, because people are too busy with their lives. There is no one who's going to stop whatever it is that they're doing out there and come and help you find a job. There is no one who's going to stop whatever they're doing out in the world to come and help you lose weight, or come and help you take better care of your life or your health or your kids. It is such an isolating lesson to know that no one is coming to save you, but it is also a liberating thing to know that the solution is within you. The solution is not out there. The solution is you deciding, I want this and I am going to go for it. Until you get to that point where you decide that, honey, ain't nothing gonna change. There is nothing that's gonna change. Lesson 4 is we are all working towards something different, right? We're all working towards different things. And so comparison is not only just a thief of joy, it is completely useless. At most, comparison is useless. Let it go, throw it out the window. It is not going to benefit you in any way. Let me tell you, in 2023, right? In 2023, a lot of my peers who I had left in South Africa, because I moved to the UK. This was my second year living in London. A lot of my peers back home were getting promoted, they were buying cars, they were buying houses, they were getting married, they were having kids, all of those things that we want. And I remember scrolling on my Instagram and just seeing all of this, you know, the reels that people make, going to BMW and signing the papers and then driving off the lots of the dealership. Yo, guys, seeing that, I just thought about like how I'm nowhere near any of those things. Like, I was struggling in 2023. I was struggling. And although like I had my life set up in a different way, I still felt the need to compare, because I went to uni with these people. You know, I went to articles with these people. I've gone through the same thing that they went through, and now like I felt like they are way beyond like where I was in 2023. And you know, I will get to this lesson a bit later as well, but while we're here, I realized that no, man, like we're working towards different things. Like, I cannot compare myself to somebody who's living in South Africa. We don't live in the same environment. We don't make the same amount of money. We're not exposed to the same type of things, you know. And so me comparing myself to them was it was not only just stealing my joy, but it was so useless because there was no way that I could get the same things here in the UK because it is a different environment altogether. And so that's when I realized that we are all working towards different things, really. Like, if you are out there comparing yourself to me, know that I am working towards a different goal to what you're working towards. And so our journeys are not going to look the same. You might be at a point where you have to or you need to buy a car or a house. That's great. I am not at that point in my life. I don't need to buy a car. I don't need to buy a house. Do you get what I mean? And so I realized that no, man, I am working towards something different. I am working towards a second citizenship, and I am working towards a different kind of future that they are probably working towards. And so why am I comparing my journey to them? Why am I comparing my life to their 2-minute highlight reel? Like, guys, let's stop the comparison. Let's stop the comparison, because it just makes you feel so negative about your life. It makes you feel left behind. It makes you feel like you're not doing enough. And honestly, you are doing enough. If you're taking action on your life, driving it towards the direction of your dream, driving it towards what you want to achieve, you are doing a whole lot. Okay? And just because somebody has done something else doesn't invalidate what you are doing currently in your life. And so that's what I've learned, that we are all working towards different things. My goal, your goal, their goal, completely different. And so our processes are not going to look the same. They're not going to look the same. Okay. Next lesson is do things for you and not for anyone else's approval. If you can learn to do things for you and for you only and not to get anyone else's approval, you will live such a stress-free life. Let me give you a personal example. When I was in high school, I remember okay, let me give you a little bit of background so you understand this. When I was in high school, or when I started high school, I was a smart kid, right? I was really, really smart at that time in my life. I don't know if being smart fades, but I've learned with time and experience that maybe it does fade because I was not very smart in uni. But in my high school days, like, I was an A student. And I remember like writing a couple of tests, and I would score like really, really high marks. And I'd take it home and my parents would be so proud of me. They'd be like, oh my God, we're so proud of you. You're doing so well in school. My dad used to give me money as well. So like that was motivating, right? He would give me like 100 Rand note at the time when I've passed something, not just passed, but like when I've achieved like a really high mark. And then I remember this one time, it was midterm and we had written exams in my high school and I had passed. I didn't just only pass, I passed really well. Like I was in the 60s, the 70s. I passed really, really well. And for that test, right, majority of the class had failed that test dismally, right? The average was really bad and I had gotten, I think it was the 60s or the 70s, somewhere there. My average marks ranged in the 90s, right? But to show maybe that test was just difficult or just we were just not prepared enough as a class, I don't know. But yeah, I got 60s or 70s and the class average was really low. A lot of people had failed that paper. And I remember going back home and presenting the results to my dad. I'm like, oh guys, I did so well this test. And I remember my dad saying, yeah, you did well, but it's not good enough. And I felt so disappointed. I felt so disappointed, guys. Like, I remember just, I was young, I was in high school. It's so weird that this memory has stuck with me for so long, but I remember just walking out of the house and just going out to take a walk because of just how disappointed I was at his reaction. Like, yes, you passed, but this is not good enough. I'm like, in my mind, I was like, do you know that the class has failed this test? Do you know that the average for this mark is this low? Do you know that I am one of the highest scholars in this test with my 60s and my 70s? And I mean, I was still young, but like, it really occurred to me at that time that I cannot do this thing to please my dad, because my dad has a certain expectation of me, and if I didn't meet that expectation, he would be disappointed, regardless of whether it's an actual pass, you know. And I learned from then that, man, maybe that scarred me for life. Now that I actually think about it, maybe that scarred me for life. But I learned there and there that, you know what, I need to start doing things for me. I need to start doing things for me. And if I feel that I did well, like in that test, that was all that should have mattered. It shouldn't have been about my parents' approval. It shouldn't have been about my dad. It shouldn't have been about my teachers or whatever. And so I've carried that with me. Even in uni, when I wrote a test and I passed, all I would say to my parents now was, guys, I passed, or guys, I failed. I wasn't reporting marks anymore because I just felt like it makes them benchmark me against a certain mark, and that's not what I want. So even in adulthood, you know, like, do things for you. If you work with a manager and you feel like you need to please them, guys, this is life. Yeah, this is life. This corporate game, if you're in corporate, it's not about pleasing other people. It's about doing things for you. Did you learn something? Did you learn something new? Did you have impact? You know, do things for you. Don't do things to please other people. This people pleasing mentality that we have. And I know, like, even though I'm saying I've learned this lesson, sometimes it doesn't always come out that way. Sometimes you know, I do things because, you know, I want to get approval of my friends, or I want to please somebody else, things like that. But it's always just consistently being aware and asking yourself, why am I doing this? Who am I doing this for? Am I doing this for me, or am I doing this for somebody else? Whew, that's a lot. And then number 6 is, if you can, stay out of debt. And being out of debt, staying out of debt, gives you a different kind of freedom. Woo, guys, where do I start with this? Where do I start with this? A lot of my lessons are referenced to family, and I feel like that's why family for me is such a big thing, guys. Like, it's taught me so much in my life. If you can, stay out of debt. And not having debt gives you a certain level of freedom. So I grew up in a household where debt was very spoken about. It was very prevalent. We knew that my parents had debt, mainly in the form of credit cards at that time. They had like clothing accounts and whatnot, but like mostly credit cards. And we grew up around the narrative that if you want something, just, you know, if you want money, they would normally say, I will go withdraw from the credit card, or we can use credit card. So we grew up with like a lot of credit card talk in the house. And look, I don't know, man. I think it's God's grace on my life and just God's hand on my life. I remember when I started working, I bought a phone on contract for my brother. And was it for my brother or was it for me? I can't remember. But anyway, I bought a phone on contract, and I was paying for this phone for 2 years. By the end of year 1, I just felt, nah, man, like I don't want to pay for this phone anymore. Like, why am I still paying for something that I've been using for a year? You know, like, this just doesn't make sense. And after that cell phone contract, I swore to myself I would never buy a phone on contract ever again. In fact, I would never get into anything that needs me to pay monthly debt service, to service this debt on a monthly basis. And not having debt has freed me. It has freed me so much, guys. I remember when I moved to London, I had such a high amount of money saved because I was not paying any debt. And I remember just meeting people here in London who had debt in South Africa. They were still paying a car, or they were still paying some sort of credit card, or they were still paying their student loan debts and things like that. And you could just see how stressful those things are and how stressful those things become over time. And I feel like for me, the accumulation of debt, especially bad debt like credit cards, is that it shows a lack of discipline with your finances, right? And this may sound harsh, but it really does show a lack of discipline, because the only reason you are in credit card debt is because you decided to buy something that you couldn't afford to pay for cash. Like, that's the reality and that's the fact. So if you are unable to save for something, and another thing is instant gratification. This should be a lesson on its own, but anyway, maybe we'll talk about it in the next in part 2. But like, if you find yourself in credit card debt, that means you lack discipline to wait until you have the cash to buy something. I understand situations where emergencies arrive and you have to use your credit card because you don't have emergency savings. But even in that case, you do not have the discipline to save for an emergency. You live your life thinking, I don't need to save for this, or I'm going to use my credit card if something pops up. And so the lesson here for me is that even the Bible says, like, whoever is the borrower is a slave to the lender. That means you will continuously be forced to keep working to service that debt. Whether you like the work that you do, whether you like how you make money or not, it is not up to you, because you have a debt that you have to service. It keeps you locked in, man. Like, taking up debt keeps you locked in the things that you wouldn't ordinarily be one to be in, right? And I've just seen that, like, not having debt liberates you. I could quit my job today and no one would care in the world, because I don't have any debt I need to pay. I could do whatever it is that I want. I could take a sabbatical. I could go sit at home for 12 months. I could do whatever it is that I want, because I am not a slave to any debt repayments. And so for me, I've learned that not having debt liberates you. And yes, even if you have debt for things like investment property, for example, or like some sort of investment, it is good debt, but it is still debt. You still need to work. You still are bound by that contract in some fashion, in some sort. And this is not to say I will never have debt, guys. That's not what I'm saying. I will have debt. I will buy properties. I do actually have, in fact, a property that I have bought on mortgage, but that's not under my name. It's not under my personal name. So that is the lesson for me, is that I've seen that taking on these little careless, irresponsible debts like credit card, store cards, cell phones on contract, it really limits your potential financially. It really ties you down to jobs and works and income streams that you wouldn't want to be in, but you have to be because you have to service this debt. Next lesson is that your dreams are limited to your environment and to your knowledge. This reminds me of a video I once watched of Brandon Praise, and he was talking about how when he was young he used to dream of owning a certain type of car. I think it was a Golf or something like that at the time, and that was because that was all he knew. Like, that was the epitome of cars in his mind. That was all he'd ever known and all he'd ever seen. And so you cannot dream what you don't know. You cannot dream what you don't know. I used to think that I just want like a life where I used to think like I'd get married at a certain age and I'd buy a house and I'd have a car and I'd just have kids running around and I'm gonna climb the corporate ladder, become CEO of XXX, like, because that was what I knew at the time and was modeled in my brain. That was my dream. That was the epitome of my dream. But my dream was limited to what I knew. My dream was limited to my environment at the time. It was limited to the things that I could see. And maybe the lesson here is that you need to expand your mind. You need to expand the things that you see. And I thank God for social media, because it has done that. It has helped us. It has aided us in opening up our minds. And so you cannot dream things that you cannot comprehend. You cannot dream things that you cannot comprehend. If you cannot comprehend how somebody can live across 3 different cities in 3 different continents, frequenting, flying between that city, making money here, having impact. If you cannot comprehend, you cannot dream it. You cannot dream of what you don't know. And so you need to expose your mind, guys. Like, exposure, oh my God, it changed my life. It changed my life. And not just exposure on social media, but just exposure as well in terms of going to these places. I visited Dubai in January this year, and God, my goodness, I had seen Dubai in pictures and videos online and social media and like things, but being there was different. Being there solidified, it gave me a desire that I didn't know I had, right? Like it exposed me to people live like this. I cannot believe it. Like, I was like, there are people who live like this, guys. This is their daily life. This is their daily commute to work. This is their lifestyle. This is the things they can afford. I was like, no, man. I didn't know these things before. And so exposure is such, like, I speak a lot for exposure. It is such a great thing to have. Invest in your exposure, guys. Like, go out there, live your little town way to, like, live the little town mentality. You guys are marrying each other there. You are having kids with each other. You are eating the same things. You are, and maybe I know I speak from a point of privilege, but this is about the 30 lessons that I have learned in my 30 years of life. And thankfully, my 30 years of life has involved moving outside of my tiny little community where I come from, living in Joburg, and now living in London, right? So it has encompassed all of that. But like, if you have the privilege to live your hometown, just go see how other people live. Just go see what else is possible out there. Because I feel like sometimes we get limited because your mom, your aunts, your cousins, this is all they've done. And so, well, this is all there is. You guys in your family live like sliced bread is the best thing to happen in the world. But it's because we haven't been exposed. And so, yeah. Oh my God. I'm so passionate about these things. I really am. Let me move on. The next lesson is that nothing happens by luck or by chance. It is hard work and it is consistency that gives you results. Guys, I have so many stories to tell. Like, it's not enough. I have so many stories to tell. this specific lesson, right, I learned it when we had a family gathering once. Before I even moved to London, we had a family gathering, and while we were in the family gathering, stuff was happening. We're dishing out food and things like that. We're talking about, hey, what are you doing? Hey, what's going on in your life? Things like that. And I remember at the time I was still contending the move to the UK. I was still thinking about it. I hadn't decided yet. I was still thinking about it, and I was like, I don't know. They were asking me, so what are you gonna do now that your contract is ended? What's the plan? I was like, oh, I don't know. There's this option to move abroad, but like I don't know. I'm unsure about it and things like that. And I remember one of my cousins was like, yo, you are so lucky. You are so lucky. Like, things are happening for you. You've gone to school. Like, things just have worked out for you. And I remember thinking, it didn't just work out for me. Like, guys, like, I know when you're looking at it from the outside, looking in, it looks like, oh my god, like things have gone so smoothly for her. She's gone to school, she's done her articles, she's moved abroad, she's living large, she's traveling to all these places. And I just remember, like, when my cousin said that, I was like, it didn't just happen for me. Like, I went to school, I studied, I put hours into studying, I put hours into developing myself, I put hours into uni, the money, the sweat, the grit, the tears. I failed a year trying to get to this point. It didn't just happen. It was a lot of hard work. It was a lot of consistency. It was a lot of prayer and grace. And yes, maybe you and I don't come from the same background, and maybe there are some things about my upbringing and my background that puts me at an advantage. But I didn't just get here because I stood on that advantage and did nothing. I worked hard. I sacrificed. I failed. I got up and tried again. I didn't give up. Do you know how many hours I had worked by the end of my training contract? I think the recommended hours by SAICA is maybe 3,500 hours or something like that. I had double those hours. Whatever SAICA had, I had doubled those hours. I had worked an equivalent of 6 years in my training contract. It didn't just happen. I don't know how to explain this. And so, yeah, man, nothing is by luck. Nothing is by luck. Nothing is by chance. Does God give you grace? Yes. Does God provide for you? Yes. But faith requires action. Hard work, consistency, grit, not giving up, because you know the thing that you're working towards. And so let's leave the mentality that some people are lucky and it's easy for you because XYZ and all this and all that. No, it's not easy for anyone. People have worked for the things they have. Obviously, I'm not talking about illegal things, I'm not talking about illicit trade and whatever, but like, people have worked hard for the things that they have in their lives. And so let's not belittle, let's not think it was just luck, And then the next lesson is, don't let others make decisions for which you have to live with the consequences, right? If you have to live with the consequences of something, do not give that decision to somebody else. Do not give that decision to somebody else. You must make that decision. I know of somebody who, they went through high school, right? They went through high school and they got to the end of their high school in their matric year, and they needed to then decide, what are you doing after matric? Are you going to college? Are you taking a gap year? What are you doing? Basically, what do you want to do? And this person was so influenced by their one side of the family. You know how we have the mother's side of the family, the father's side of the family. They were very influenced by the one side of the family, and they were like, well, the one side of the family was like, well, you know, you don't have to decide now. I mean, you're just in grade 12, just focus on what you're doing. You can always just take a gap year and decide later. You know, you don't have to stress. You can also just get a job and things like that. And so when their results of matric came out, they hadn't applied, they hadn't prepared for the next step, they hadn't done anything because they clinged onto the decision of the family that you can figure yourself out, right? And so the following year started, mates went to university, friends went to college, friends did many other things, and they didn't decide, they didn't take action, they didn't prepare themselves, they didn't do anything because the family said, you can figure it out later. And now they're sitting at home bearing the consequence of the decision that was taken by their family to say you'll figure it out. But now the family is not trying to figure it out with them. They're now sitting on their social media and their friends are like touchdown Cape Town. Their friends are like touchdown University of Johannesburg. You know, their friends are posting their student cards. And this person is just at home, frustrated, sitting in the consequence of other people's decision. So if there's anything that I have learned in my 30 years of life, is that if I am going to have to face the consequences of this decision, whether good consequences or bad consequences, I need to make that decision for me. Because fast forward down the line, this person, we ask them, so why didn't you go to uni? You know, like, why didn't you go to college? They'll be there like, oh, but my family said, oh, but my mom said, oh, but my manager said, oh, but because they didn't take ownership of their own life and make their own decisions. So that's the lesson. Do not allow other people to make decisions when you have to live with the consequences of those decisions, whether good or bad. Lesson number 10, I feel like this is too long, is that your friends, your environment, the things around you influences you more than you think and more than you'd like. You know the whole saying about birds of the same feathers flock together? That thing is wisdom. That thing is wisdom. The environments that we are in, the people that we expose ourselves to, they have such an impact on who we become, what we do, our habits, more than we would like to think. This is a controversial example, but I'm going to give it anyway. I had friends before. I had friends who were, how do I put this? In articles. Yeah, in articles. I had friends who were quite different, right? Like I feel like I've never had a group of friends where it's like the girls type of thing. I've always been the kind of person who has different friend groups, and those people are not friends with each other. I am just friends with them, I am friends with them, but they're not friends. Do you get what I mean? So I've always had that type of arrangement, or always found myself in those type of friendships. And on the one hand of my friends were people who were splurgers, right? Like people who were like, they don't mind spending on a meal. They don't mind like spending on things they want. Like if we're traveling together, they're the kind who like, we have breakfast out, we have lunch out, we have dinner out. We buy the things that we want to do. We pay for the activity. Like they are splurgers, not like carelessly or anything, but like they're not stingy. Do you get what I mean? On the other hand, I had friends where we'd be out on a trip and they would want to look for the cheapest place to eat. They would want to maybe we can eat breakfast at around 11 so that we can just have dinner. They were like, oh, I don't want to do that activity because that activity is too expensive. Or if we do this activity, then we're not going to do that activity because we're paying for too much. They would like prefer to eat fast food rather than go to a sit-down restaurant. Things like that, right? So I had these two very different friend groups. And I found that when I'm with this friend group, I always find myself as well thinking about the prices. I always find myself thinking, this thing is £5, or this alternative is 80 pence. And, I always find myself debating the prices and comparing and being stingy like that. While I'm with the other group of friends, I find myself like, Aibo, guys, I deserve these things. I deserve to eat at this place. I want to eat at this place. And so I've realized that even with like such things, man, like they influence the person that you inevitably become, and they influence your habits. That is why if you want to change your life, you need to change your environment. If you want to change your life, if you want to be the person who is into wellness, is into health, is into exercise, you need to find a community that is already doing that and be a part of that community, because that influence will influence you into that. If you feel like you are in your travel goal era and whatever it is that you want to do, find a community that is about that, right? And I'm not saying like ditch your friends or end your friendships and whatnot, but also just sit back and take stock of your friendships, take stock of your relationships. Are the type of habits that these people have the habits that I want to adopt? On a more positive note, I had friends when I first moved to London. I had friends who were like really all about God. They were like about worship, about praise, Bible study, home cell, and I joined that and I became a part of that, and that was my daily life. I found myself reading the Bible more. I found myself praying more, even in my personal time. I found myself just having a better relationship with God and having a more consistent relationship with God because of that circle of influence. So it's not to say that you only get influenced on the bad things. You also get influenced on the good things as well. But the bottom line here is that your friends, your environment, your relationships, the people that are in your life, they influence you more than you think. A lot of the thoughts that we have in our minds and the way that we see things, if you really sit down and ask yourself, is this really my opinion or is this the opinion of the people around me? You would find that maybe 80% of the time, it's because the people around you see that thing the same way. Lesson 11, this is getting too long, is take a leap of faith. Take a leap of faith. My mom likes to say the saying in Tsonga. It says, right? If you're Tsonga, you probably know that. And it doesn't make sense to directly translate it, but basically it means you won't know the weight of something until you carry it, which basically means, just try. And man, the number of times I have said the same saying to myself in Tonga, actually, when I feel undecided, when I feel scared, when I feel like I don't know what's gonna happen, I feel unsure, I feel unclear, I always just say to myself, and I go ahead and do it. I go ahead and try. I go ahead and do what I can do. When I was moving to the UK, that's exactly what my mom said. When we started building the house at home, I remember speaking to my mom and I was like, I have some of the money, but I don't have all the money, and I don't know like what's gonna happen when the money that I have runs out. And she said to me, You will never know until you try. You know, you will never know until you try. And so we tried. And we built the house, and it is where it is now. The money has run out and we've stopped. We've stopped, you know, but we have tried. And the thing about trying is that once you start, things construe to work out in your favor. Once you start, things just align, man, you know. And so yeah, that is the lesson for me, to say just try, just take a leap of faith, man. If you just stand in one spot and you keep debating whether you should do it or whether you shouldn't, indecision will cost you. Not taking a decision is also taking a decision at the end of the day. And so you just have to try. You just have to try. I got on a plane. I didn't even know where I was going to land. I didn't even know how. Guys, I remember landing at Heathrow and I was like, what the hell have I done? I couldn't even contact anyone because my SIM card didn't even work. I didn't know how the money works. I didn't know where I needed to go. I just didn't know, and I tried. I asked around, I asked security, I asked for help, and things have worked out 4 years later. So, lesson 12: success is what you say it is. And I've learned in my 30 years of life that you have to define your own success. You have to define what success is to you, and we have to move away from what society defines as success, because sometimes, and most times, that definition does not apply to us, or that is not how we define success. In April, I went home for my brother's graduation, and I also did a vlog about it. My dad and I went to Limpopo together, and while I was at home in Limpopo, I bumped into my former high school teachers when I was with my dad, and we were driving. I was driving with my dad in my dad's bakkie, and we ran into my former high school teacher, and we stopped and we chatted to them. Obviously, you know, my dad knows them, etc. So we stop and we're talking, and he asks me, like, what are you driving? What are you, you know, what kind of car do you drive now? What kind of car have you bought? You know, those type of questions. And I get all of those. I get those questions all the time when I'm at home. And I remember just telling him, I don't own a car. I don't drive where I live. I take public transport. I take public transport. And as I was saying this, like, I could see the sheer disappointment in his face. Like, I could almost see him asking himself, but you're a CA, you earn money, you live abroad, like, you earn so much money, like, why are you not buying a car? Why are you using public transport as a chartered accountant? I could see all of these thoughts going through his mind, but obviously he didn't say that. And so I just, my definition of success has changed a lot, okay? Like, and I've just realized through that conversation that, especially where we come from, especially in our communities back home, that success is still largely material things. It's still largely like what you can buy, what you can acquire, what you can own, things like that. And while for me, success has changed so much. Like, success for me is freedom, guys. Like, I don't care what type of car I drive. And even now, when I think about moving back to South Africa, when I do, is that I still want to drive my car. The car that I left to my brother, I'm happy. Like, I'm more than happy to continue driving that car because it's still a good car. It still gets me from point A to point B. It's fully paid, so I'm not incurring debt to pay it. And for me, success has been about freedom. It's about like experiences now. Like, I just want to have the freedom to do what I want when I want it. I want to have my time back. I want to have financial freedom. I want to have the freedom to travel to any country that I want to travel to and not have to stress about money. The freedom to spend Friday, Saturday, Wednesday, Tuesday afternoon doing whatever it is that I want. Yesterday I was booking my leave for December, and I was texting my mom, hey, when do you guys close at school, so that we can coordinate the dates, Pella, because what's the point of me going to South Africa and I can't see my family because they go and work and things like that. And I just remember in that moment I was like, this is not what I want. Like, I don't want to sit and coordinate the 2 weeks in a year where I get to spend time with my family. Like, success for me is about freedom and having my time back. I don't want to sit and be coordinating stupid days. I'm sorry, but you get what I mean. So like, yeah, success for me has been about freedom. It's been about doing the thing that I want to do when I want to do it, having the financial independence to do it, and being able to travel and live across different cities. And it's not about the car, the house. I could not care less what I drive. And so the lesson here is success is subjective, and success should be what you say it is for you. It's not about what society thinks it should be. Lesson number 13. What we say is our love language is how we were loved when we were young. I'm gonna say that one again. What we say is our love language is how we were loved when we were young. Let me tell you, my love language is quality time, right? Spend time with me, chill with me on the bed, just chill with me on the couch. We don't even have to be saying anything to each other, just be there, okay? And I realized that is how I was shown love when I was young. My parents were there. We would sit with each other. We would sit with my parents in the lounge. I would lay in their bed. I remember I would lay in my mom's bed as she gets ready in the morning. I would lay on the couch and watch my dad polish his shoes, prepares his clothes. My parents and we traveled a lot together, and I also feel like that is why travel is such a big thing for me. I don't know if travel can be a love language, but if it can, it probably is one of my love languages, because my parents used to travel with me a lot. We would frequent Kruger National Park. There is not a camp in the entire Kruger National Park that I have not been to. We would travel together every holiday, every school holiday, December, Christmas, New Year, Good Friday, heritage holidays. We would travel and we would spend time together. And so I have learned from my childhood that when somebody says they love me, they better be spending time with me. They better be traveling with me. And that has shaped how I define love and how I define my love language. And my parents, Shem, God bless their heart, they gave me experiences, but they really bought me gifts. Like on my birthday or on like big achievements and things like that, we barely got gifts. Even my youngest brother, who is like still a kid now, I don't think he's ever received a gift from my parents, like a bought gift, like here is a gift. It's not a thing in our house. What is a thing in our house is they will book a little villa for your birthday. We will do a little trip for your birthday. We will book somewhere and we will go, we will braai meat, we will sit across the fire, from each other. We will braai, we will talk, we will drink. We will have a great time. And so that's why for me, like, my love language comes from my childhood. I don't know if it is the same for you, but let me know in the comments if you also resonate and you feel like it could be true that the way we define our love languages is the way we were loved as kids, right? Okay, let's move on. 13. The lesson that I've learned, lesson number 14, sorry, is that I have gotten to understand and differentiate between what is in my control and what is not within my control. And I have learned to let go of what is not within my control. And in my 30 years of life, and as you can imagine, there's been so many things that have been outside of my control, right? So many things. Whether I get accepted, whether I get rejected, whether I get into a relationship or I don't get into a relationship, like things like that, especially in the area of relationships. There are certain things that are in your control and certain things that are not. And I've come to see that, people will be like, put yourself out there, maybe you'll meet somebody, do this, do that, online dating, put yourself out there, go out to coffee shops, whatever it is that people advise these days. I've just realized that for a relationship to happen, there needs to be two willing, consenting adults. There needs to be two willing, consenting adults, right? And like, this thing is not like an exam, There is absolutely nothing I can do for somebody else to be a willing, consenting adult. They need to want to be that. And so that is outside of my control, which just leaves me with just me. That means what is in my control is the kind of person I become. What is in my control is whether or not I can communicate well, whether or not I become a good partner, whether or not I can be vulnerable, whether or not I can be understanding, accommodative, all of those things. That is what is within my control. When I meet this person, when this person eventually comes into my life, I have zero control. I have no knowledge. I have no control of that. And so let it go. And that is true for many other areas of our lives, guys. If you think about it, you're applying for a job, you're trying to get yourself out of a dark hole. You need approval from somebody else, especially within the context of your work or whatever else. Like, there are certain things that you can do to better position yourself and to better prepare yourself. Yes, but there are also certain things that are just not within your control. There are certain things that just needs divine intervention from God. It just needs grace. God just needs to do it for you. There is nothing in this world you could ever do. God just needs to do it for you. And there are certain things that you can do that are within your control. And I've learned to focus my energy on those things and let go of the things that I cannot control. Last lesson is experiences over material things. And I feel like I've already spoken a lot on this based on that love language thing. And maybe this is where this comes in for me, is that I value experiences over material things. If you and I are ever close enough that you're considering buying me something, please make sure it's an experience. If you ever thought to yourself, I wish I could get Ntwanie a bag or like shoes or like flowers, please don't. Please book me a flight. Please pay for a massage. Please, give me an experience. Give me an experience. And it's so weird and different. I just feel so different, because the girlies love flowers. Like, girls love flowers on the internet. I couldn't care less for flowers, guys. They die after 5 days. I love to see them in their natural habitat wherever they're growing, but please don't buy me flowers. book me a trip. Book me a trip. You know, take me to a lodge somewhere. Take me to go do my nails. You know, like, give me an experience. Let's go rock climbing. Let's go on a drive. Let's go on a road trip. Like, give me an experience. Like, I don't care for material things. Maybe it's because I can't afford some material things. I don't know. But I just experiences over material things any day. Any day. I want to go to Portugal. I want to go to the Algarve. I want to go to Switzerland. I want to go see the Northern Lights in Iceland. You know, I don't care about Louis Vuitton and the latest Coach bag. And like, can we go to Iceland? Can we go to Japan? Can we go to Abu Dhabi? You know? But yeah, that's just me. And like the lessons that I have learned in my 30 years of life. This is part 1. Part 2 is on the way. So keep your eyes peeled for part 2. Comment down below and let me know what resonated with you. And maybe if you've also learned the same lessons. Don't forget to like, to comment, to subscribe. I will see you in part 2.